By 2006, the U.S. economy was showing signs of trouble, but most people either didn't notice or chose to ignore it. The stage for the 2008 financial crisis was being set. One of the main causes of this crisis was the sale of risky investment products called mortgage-backed securities, MBS. An MBS starts when a bank gives money to someone to buy a home. The bank keeps that loan for a few years and then sells it to Fannie Mae to get more money for new loans. Fannie Mae then groups several loans together and sells them on the market as a mortgage-backed security. The worth of an MBS depends on the value of the loans inside it. Since banks can easily sell their home loans to Fannie Mae, they have often made loans to buyers who may not be able to pay them back. Many of these loans had low initial payments that could increase later. When interest rates rose from 2004 to 2006, many homeowners couldn't keep up with their payments any longer. As more people defaulted on their loans, the problems in the housing market spread and affected the global economy. Part 1. Asheville, North Carolina. Chapter 1. December 12, 2006. It was another ordinary Christmas party, the third one I had attended at the Thompson & Associates brokerage and investments firm's year-end celebration. The food was great, and drinks were flowing, but the talk at our table didn't catch my interest. I am Tom Mayfield, and I wasn't part of T&A. I was just there as my wife Michelle's guest. Michelle, often called Mickey, is one of the top salespeople at T&A. So Mickey, when are you going to start putting your clients into those new MBS products? Asked Bob Ford, a friend of Mickey's at work. I wouldn't invest my own money in those products, and I won't recommend them to my clients unless I'm willing to invest in them myself, Mickey replied. Your clients might miss out on a big chance to earn money, said Mark Henry, Mickey's boss. You should get in on these products now before they lose their value. Like that will happen, said Leon Goldberg, the top seller in the office. The MBS market will keep bringing in money. I was only partly listening, but I started to wonder why Mickey was unsure about investing our money in something that seemed so profitable. I didn't know what an MBS was and didn't want to embarrass her, so I decided to wait until we got home to ask her about it. Mickey knows a lot about finance and investment strategies, even more than her professors did in college. I, on the other hand, know very little and let her handle our financial decisions. When we got home that night, I asked her, what is an MBS? And if they are so profitable, why aren't we investing in them? An MBS is a mortgage-backed security, and I have concerns about them. I've seen warning signs in that market, and I think there might be serious problems ahead, Mickey explained. If that's true, why are Mark and Leon so positive? I questioned. They are so focused on their profits that they refuse to see any warning signs, Mickey replied. What do you think will happen? I pressed. I think these MBS could lead to a big problem, and when it happens, the housing market could go down, Mickey said. How bad could it get? I believe it could affect the whole U.S. economy. I thought about what Mickey had said and decided I would trust her judgment. I also had another thought. I worked as a project manager for a home builder in Jacksonville, busy building houses in northern Florida. How will all this impact my job? Honestly, you should start looking for a job in another field, Mickey advised. I plan to do the same. When the trouble starts, T&A will be affected and I don't want to be there. Mickey couldn't predict exactly when the market would decline, saying it could be in 2 or 3 years or even sooner. Trusting Mickey, I didn't want to wait and sent my resume to a headhunter. For 9 months, I received no job offers. My agent, Bill Ferguson, shared that the job market was already showing signs of decline. In October 2007, Ferguson called me with a potential job offer. How do you feel about moving to Asheville, North Carolina? I don't know. I'd have to talk to my wife. What's the job? I replied. The position is with Standard Auto Services Corporation. They are in the car repair business, building service centers, and then selling them as franchises. They need project managers to oversee the construction. The starting salary would be about $2,000 less than what you're making now, but there is room for growth. That sounds interesting, but how much travel will it require? Right now, they are building centers in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia, so there will be a fair amount of travel involved. How stable is this company? With the economy looking shaky, will they survive a downturn? This was a question Mickey had told me to ask any future employer. She is concerned that any job as a project manager in construction could be risky. The person I talked to said these service centers will be important if the economy slows down. If people can't buy new cars, they will need affordable places to service their older cars, Bill mentioned. I told Bill I would talk to Mickey and get back to him in the morning. When I got home that evening, Mickey was in the kitchen making fried chicken. The first meal she had cooked for me was her fried chicken. Her grandmother had shared the recipe with her, and that was the first time she tried it. It turned out to be the best fried chicken I had ever tasted and became my favorite meal. I waited until after we cleaned the kitchen to tell Mickey about the job offer from Standard Auto Services Corporation. I thought she might be unsure when I mentioned we would need to move to Asheville, North Carolina if I accepted. Asheville is said to be a beautiful place, Mickey replied. When would you need to start? They want me to start at the beginning of the month, I replied. That only gives us 3 weeks. I need to give my notice at T&A and let my clients know I'm leaving. It will take me more than 3 weeks to be ready for the move. So, you would be okay with moving to Asheville? I asked. As I said, the challenges coming our way could affect T&A and might leave you without work. This job offer seems good, but let me research the company. If it looks trustworthy, I think you should accept the job. Mickey spent 2 hours that night looking into SASK and said they seemed to be a solid company with a good plan, suggesting I should take their offer. Chapter the 2nd of October 2007, I moved to Asheville in the last week of October and found a 2-bedroom apartment for us while Mickey stayed in Jacksonville to manage selling our house and informing her clients she was leaving T&A. Mickey advised her former clients that they could work with another T&A broker or switch to a different brokerage. She also sent her resume to brokers near Asheville and managed to get a job with one who had just opened an office there. It took a month to sell our house in a market that had been really active just months before. We had to lower the asking price by $5,000 to close the deal, but we still made a profit. When Mickey finally moved to Asheville, I was managing 2 SASC service centers in western North Carolina, allowing me to be home every night. For the next 4 months, we had fun exploring the area. In the spring of 2008, Mickey and I bought a house that was in foreclosure. It was the first house built in what was planned to be a new neighborhood 11 miles north of Asheville on the western side of the river. The house on Chandler Road sat on a hill overlooking the river and was the only one built before the builders went bankrupt. It was a large wooden colonial home with a walkout basement, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. We loved it and thought it would be great for starting a family, though it took us a while to adjust to the quiet with our nearest neighbor being far away. Mickey's new job was quite similar to the one she had at T&A back in Jacksonville. She quickly built her client list and even had some previous clients reach out to her. In January, the 2 projects I was overseeing were finished, so I took on 2 more, but these were in Tennessee. This meant I found myself away from home 3 or 4 nights a week. It was tough, but the goal was to stay in this job until the housing market got better so I could return to home building. One good thing about being away was the joy of coming back home. After 4 years with SASC, I was doing well, and the company was growing, leading to even more time away. But Mickey never voiced any complaints. While I traveled around the Carolinas and Tennessee, Mickey put her skills as an investment advisor to good use, helping build our savings so we could start our family and retire early. Chapter the 3rd of March, 2012. Returning home for a long weekend after 3 weeks away, I was welcomed at the door by a serious Mickey. Tom, I've been considering starting our family, but our financial situation isn't where I want it to be yet. However, I have a new investment idea that could help us in about 2 years. If we pursue this, we'll be ready to start our family and I can be a stay-at-home mom. You know I'm not familiar with investing. I trust your judgment with our money. So what's this idea, and how confident are you that it's a good one? I don't want to say too much now. I met an investment advisor at a seminar a couple of months ago, and we've been discussing this idea for weeks. He has experience in this area and is excited about it. His name is Dave Nesbitt, and he's coming over tonight to talk about possibly joining resources so we can take advantage of this opportunity. Is this your idea or his? Mine. I just asked Dave to get his feedback, and he thinks we can do really well. We're looking at a good chance to grow our investment, which would lead to more stability for us. It sounds like you're suggesting we invest a large amount of our savings. Are you sure this is a wise move? Yes, I believe it is. Let's wait until Dave arrives, and I'll explain how much we would need to invest to make this work. I heard a car coming up the driveway, so I went out to meet Nesbitt, who arrived in a red 2010 Corvette. I felt a bit jealous since I have always liked Corvettes, but I had to drive my truck, a Ford F-150, for work. When we shook hands, I looked him over, and I think he was doing the same. Nesbitt was about my height, 6'2". His hair was darker and shorter than mine, and he had a mustache. He had a friendly smile, and I noticed a little accent when he talked. As we walked into the house, I asked him where he was from. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I spent 10 years in Cincinnati before moving here. Are you a Reds or Phillies fan? I asked. Pirates, he replied. As we stepped into the living room, Mickey came in from the kitchen with a tray of 2 beers, a glass of white wine, and some snacks. I see you two have met, so we can start now, Mickey said. Mickey looked at Dave and said, I haven't told Tom what our plan is yet, so I will explain. A month ago, I was working with a client who owns a drilling company. He shared that he has been extracting natural gas in Oklahoma and mentioned that one of his competitors wants to start in North Carolina. Recently, the state allowed fracking, and they plan to let companies begin drilling next year. He said his competitor would likely reach out to property owners soon to make deals for gas extraction rights. After our chat, I had an idea. You can't legally explore, extract, or sell the minerals under the ground, including natural gas, unless you either own the mineral rights or have a lease with the rights owner. I did some research and found that if we purchase the mineral rights first, the drilling company would need to lease from us. This could be very profitable for us. As soon as Mickey finished, Nesbitt chimed in. When Mickey shared her idea, I did my own research, and she is right. We can buy the rights to the gas without purchasing the land. If we act quickly, we could easily triple our investment. I trusted Mickey's judgment, but I had reservations about Nesbitt. It seemed risky. Why would property owners want to sell us their mineral rights? I asked. That's the beauty of it. Many landowners do not own the rights to what lies beneath their land. Often those rights were sold long ago. I searched public records and learned that most of the mineral rights in our target area belong to one family. I contacted Daniel Owen, the head of that family, and he said they would consider selling the rights if the price is right. His great-grandfather's family kept the mineral rights when they sold the land in case oil was found, but it never happened, Nesbitt said. I got the sense that Mickey and Nesbitt were set on this plan, with or without my agreement. Trusting Mickey, I decided I would follow her lead. If we go ahead, how much will it cost us? I asked. We will invest $500,000 and Dave will match it. That will allow us to buy the mineral rights from the Owen family. That's a lot of money. Are you sure this is a good idea? I said. It's too good of an opportunity to miss, Mickey replied, and Nesbitt nodded in agreement. What do we need to do now? I asked. We have a partnership agreement to sign, and I also need your power of attorney so I can act on your behalf when you're away, Mickey said as she handed me a stack of papers to sign. I think I signed 7 different documents. Mickey smiled at me but then excused herself to the bathroom. When Mickey came back, she went to the window and opened the drapes, looking outside. I walked over behind her, placed my arms around her waist and pulled her close. I kissed her softly on the neck, and she turned her head to share a moment together. We stood there, enjoying each other's presence as the evening light filled the room. We probably shouldn't be standing here in front of the window, Mickey said with a small laugh. Why not? No one around here can see us, I replied, smiling. Even though it was unlikely anyone could see us, the small risk added a little excitement to the moment. Mickey must have felt the same because she relaxed against me, and we continued to share a quiet moment by the window. Afterward, we got ready for bed, feeling closer than before. Mickey spent more time with me that weekend, and we had a nice, peaceful time together. On Monday morning, I headed back to Tennessee with a feeling of worry about Mickey getting us into this deal with Nesbitt. I didn't know if it was my distrust of Nesbitt or the large amount of money involved that made me uneasy. Perhaps it was both. I had one more concern. While our weekend was wonderful, Mickey never once said, "I love you." In the past, she often told me she loved me without thinking, so I wondered if our closeness was simply to meet a need, or if it still came from love. Chapter the 4th of April, 2012. 3 weeks later, when I came home for the weekend, the welcome I received was not what I expected. Mickey greeted me with a quick kiss on the cheek and asked how my job was going. However, she didn't seem very interested in my answer. When I brought up our business plan, expecting her to be excited, her tone was flat. "It's going about the way we thought it would," she said without much enthusiasm. Mickey seemed distant all weekend. When I tried to talk to her about it, she got frustrated. "There's nothing wrong. I'm just tired, and you being away all the time isn't helping." I wasn't sure if she missed me or was upset with me for her mood. Either way, I found it hard to respond. That weekend felt different. There was a lack of warmth between us. For the first time since we got married, I felt a bit of relief when Monday came, and it was time to return to Tennessee. At first, our phone calls felt cold, but over time, Mickey warmed up a bit. Still, she insisted that nothing was wrong, making me worry about our marriage. I called home often, and she always picked up, which made me feel a bit better. But sometimes her voice made me uneasy, as if answering my calls was a chore rather than something she enjoyed. Thinking my absence might be causing the tension, I tried to make Mickey happy when I was home, but not much seemed to change. Months went by without improvement. Chapter the 5th of January, 2013. In mid-January, I prepared to head home for a long weekend. I called Mickey to tell her when I would be on my way. To my surprise, she sounded cheerful, and we chatted for a bit. Mickey mentioned, "Just so you know, we had 3 inches of snow last night. It's been cloudy all day, and it hasn't warmed up. Be careful, a lot of the roads are icy." Hearing her sound happy again gave me hope that whatever had been bothering her was over. As I drove home, it was getting dark, and I could still see snow in the driveway. What caught my eye were some tire tracks leading to the garage door. They were too wide to belong to Mickey's car and led to my side of the garage. After parking, I stepped outside to take a closer look. Only one set of tracks came out of the garage, and no other car was inside. The tracks looked like they belonged to another vehicle that had been in the garage before the snow fell, possibly Nesbitt's Corvette. Mickey greeted me in the kitchen with a bright smile and seemed glad to see me, but I was still thinking about the tracks. I decided not to mention them and asked if she had gone outside in the snow. She said she had stayed inside all day. Chapter the 6th of February, 2013. When I left for work on Monday, I felt heavy in my chest. I thought Mickey might be hiding something, but I wanted to be sure before bringing it up. I decided to surprise her with a visit the following weekend to find out the truth. I took Thursday off, rented a car, and made the 500-mile drive in 5 hours, arriving home at 6:15 p.m. I parked the rental car a little down the road and walked back to the house. I checked the garage and saw Mickey's car, but there were no lights on in the house. I entered, turned off the alarm, and quickly looked around. I didn't see anything that confirmed my suspicions, so I turned the alarm back on and went down to the basement to wait for Mickey to come home. I wanted to know if she was with Nesbitt and to speak to them if they arrived together. I could hear Nesbitt's Corvette before it reached the driveway, so I moved to the kitchen door to listen to their conversation. I waited for the right moment to join them, but when I heard their words, I froze. "I don't know why you keep blaming yourself. This isn't your fault. He made his choices and he didn't think about how it would affect you," Nesbitt said. "I know that, but isn't there another way to handle this?" Mickey replied. "Well, you could go for a divorce and say he was unfaithful, but that would take at least 6 months. We wouldn't be able to be together until it's final. If he finds out about us, he could take action against you, and you would lose your advantage. After everything, you'd only get half, and we need more for our plans. My way will get you everything you deserve," Nesbitt continued. I felt confused. Mickey thought I had been unfaithful. How did she come to that conclusion? And she seemed ready to leave me for Nesbitt. The knot in my stomach tightened. I didn't care about the divorce, but I was upset that she didn't come to me directly about her feelings. "But won't I be the first person they suspect?" Mickey asked. "Suspect her of what?" My mind raced with questions. I had to keep focused on their conversation. Who will even know he is gone? Once I take his identity, no one will look for him, and no one will find out what really happened. Then we can sell this house and go to California. I can change my appearance enough to pass for him when I get a California driver's license. Then we can live our lives freely. Their plans felt drastic. Why would Nesbitt want to step into my life? What was in it for him? Okay. When do we do it? Mickey asked. We'll do it after he files your taxes. We wanted to avoid any trouble with the IRS, and by then he should have already gotten his yearly bonus. I'll handle everything. Just keep him happy until we are ready, Nesbitt said. I was shocked. I thought Mickey loved me, but I just heard her talking about something that surprised me deeply. I was still on the basement stairs when I heard Mickey set the alarm. I couldn't leave the house without turning off the alarm, which would alert them that someone was still there. I went back down to the basement and sat in an old chair, trying to understand what I heard. I never cheated on Mickey. How could she think that? Is she really planning something against me? If I go to the police, what can I tell them? I have no proof of what I heard. Going to the police might change their plans, but I didn't just want to stop them. I wanted to make sure they faced the right consequences for their actions. While anger was my main feeling, many thoughts raced through my mind. I took a deep breath and tried to focus, one thing at a time. Since I would be stuck in the basement until morning, I needed some sleep. I made myself as comfortable as I could in the chair and had a restless night. In the morning, after I heard both cars leave, I went upstairs to find something to eat. The frying pan was still on the stove, and their breakfast dishes were still on the table, so I didn't worry about the mess. I fried a couple of eggs, made toast, and reheated some coffee. While I ate, I began to plan. I was pretty sure I could keep Mickey and her friend from going through with their plan. But just in case something went wrong, I wanted to prevent them from benefiting from it. I thought I likely had until April, giving me a couple of months to find a way to stop their scheme. For a moment, I wondered if I could convince Mickey that I never cheated on her. Would that change her mind about the plan? I thought about it for a while, but realized it didn't matter. Even if I had strayed, plotting against me with someone else was unacceptable. Both of them needed to be held responsible. In the next 2 weeks, I canceled my life insurance policy, changed my will to leave everything to the Salvation Army, and kept an eye on our bank and investment accounts. By the last week of March, I had done everything I could to prepare, but I still didn't have the evidence I needed to expose their plan. There was one more thing I wanted to do: get inside Nesbitt's house. I returned from Memphis on the first Thursday in April, unannounced. At 5 o'clock that evening, I parked my truck next to an old service station on Old Marshall Highway. The fastest way from Asheville to our house was north on Old Marshall Highway past the station, then left on Fletcher Martin Road across the river, then left on Chandler Road. Our house was only a quarter-mile across the river from where I parked, and I could see the house from there, but driving from the station to the house took about 15 minutes. I was watching traffic on Old Marshall Road, waiting to see Mickey drive by. Her Honda passed at 5:16 p.m. I waited to see if Nesbitt's red Corvette would follow her, but the only Corvette I saw was a new cobalt blue one that passed me 5 minutes later. I wondered if Nesbitt had bought a new car. Could that cobalt Corvette be his? Using my binoculars, I watched until I saw that blue Corvette pull into my garage. I waited half an hour to make sure they didn't leave again, then drove to Nesbitt's house. His home was in a tree-covered area, giving it privacy. I parked my truck on a nearby street and walked back to the house. It seemed there was no alarm system. I checked around the outside of the house to see if there was a hidden key. I found the key on a ledge above the back door. The house was a ranch style with 3 bedrooms. Nesbitt had turned one into a study, which is where I began my search. There was a laptop on the desk and it was on, so I simply tapped the touchpad and the screen lit up. I searched the desk and found a list of his passwords hidden underneath the computer, allowing me to easily open his emails. I started looking through them, but there was nothing that could point to him doing anything wrong. There were no emails to or from Mickey, and nothing related to any business until I saw an email dated February 3rd. It was from a real estate agent in Deadwood, South Dakota. Dear Mr. Mayfield, I hope you are well. I'm pleased to tell you that Mr. McRannell has agreed to your offer of $1. $5 million for the Deadwood Saloon, Hotel, and Casino on Main Street in Deadwood. I will send the signed contract to you via FedEx once I have it. We can schedule the closing with Mr. McRannell's lawyers as soon as they receive the due diligence check from you. Mr. McRannell hopes we can finalize this deal in early May. I look forward to meeting you when you come up for the closing. Sincerely, Matthew Johnson. What was happening? Was Nesbitt buying a hotel and casino in Deadwood, South Dakota using my name? Is that what he is doing with the money we gave him to buy the mineral rights from the Owen family? Is that why he wants to take over my identity? I printed the letter and continued to search through his notes. The rest of his emails did not yield anything useful. I found a link to his bank account and was able to check it out. There was no record of a $500,000 check being deposited from our bank into Nesbitt's account. But I did find a check written from Nesbitt's account to Mayfield Enterprises, LLC. Were Mickey and Nesbitt trying to set up a company in my name? And what exactly is an LLC? I looked up LLC and found out it means Limited Liability Company. An LLC can be easily formed by one or more people to help protect their personal belongings from legal issues related to the company. Did Mickey and Nesbitt create Mayfield Enterprises, LLC to buy mineral rights in North Carolina, or is there something more to this? Did Mickey invest our $500,000 in the LLC? Was the planned purchase of the Deadwood Saloon, Hotel, and Casino a deal made by this LLC? The more I learned, the more confused I became. In Nesbitt's bookmarks, I found a link labeled ME. Clicking on it led me to the website for Mayfield Enterprises. The homepage had a picture of Nesbitt and Mickey with a caption identifying them as Thomas and Michelle Mayfield, president and treasurer of Mayfield Enterprises, LLC. It seemed that Nesbitt was trying to take over my identity. The website described Mayfield Enterprises as an investment company interested in mergers and acquisitions, but it didn't have much information. This made me think that the site was still being worked on. My internet search for Mayfield Enterprises didn't yield any results, which meant the website wasn't live yet. I couldn't find anything else on the computer to help me understand what Nesbitt and Mickey were planning. So I started going through the desk drawers. In the top center drawer, I found a loaded gun, but I left it there and moved to the top left drawer. Inside, I found an open FedEx envelope containing the purchase contract for the Deadwood Saloon, Casino, and Hotel. The contract said Mayfield Enterprises was offering $1, $5 million for the casino and hotel. It was signed by Thomas Mayfield, but it wasn't my signature. It didn't look like Mickey's handwriting either, so I guessed Nesbitt had signed my name. I put the contract back and checked the next drawer, where I found 2 notebooks, one blue and one green. I took them out and opened the green notebook. It had about 50 pages detailing what Nesbitt had been planning for the last couple of years. It read like an outline for a book he wanted to write, featuring Nesbitt, Mickey, and me as the main characters. He detailed each step of his plan, adding names, places, and times as he went along. The outline started 2 years ago, well before he met Mickey, and continued with his plans concerning me. Nesbitt described a married couple he wanted to find, ideally both around his age, with good jobs and no children. The couple should be new to the area and without close relatives nearby. He wanted the wife to be attractive and assertive, while the husband would need to work long hours or travel often. He documented his search for this ideal couple, making connections with professional women across the Southeast. That's how he found Mickey. Nesbitt researched both of us until he felt we were the couple he wanted. Nesbitt painted Mickey as smart and charming, believing he could win her over. He described me as bland and thought he could turn Mickey against me by making her think I was unfaithful during my work trips. Nesbitt's interactions with Mickey started in 2011. He managed to attend a seminar she was at, pretending to be a newcomer. He learned that Mickey liked compliments about her outfits and intelligence. After 3 months, he secured a lunch date, and they began to meet regularly. His plan included sending Mickey an anonymous note suggesting I was unfaithful while away on business. Once she became suspicious, it was easy for him to fan those flames. He advised her to wait for solid proof before acting. That proof came in another anonymous message, complete with misleading images meant to create doubt. Once Nesbitt stirred up enough anger in Mickey, he used it to get closer to her. He expressed affection for her and talked about a future together after she left me, suggesting she keep her suspicions quiet. They discussed how to manage finances carefully to protect their assets. Nesbitt often criticized how I treated Mickey, which made her resent me more and encouraged thoughts of revenge. He highlighted how unfair it would be for me to gain from any separation of assets. Eventually, as she began to agree with him about my future, they started crafting a plan that would benefit her financially. The idea of investing in mineral rights was a trick to secure money away from me. Mickey convinced Nesbit that I didn't have good financial sense and would fully trust her decisions. They used that belief to manipulate me into signing the necessary documents for a business venture that would take our money without my awareness. On page 46 of the notebook, Nesbit wrote about preparing a location for disposing of someone, including GPS coordinates. They had decided on a way to harm me, but hadn't figured out when it would happen. Nesbit had a small quantity of a substance which he planned to use during one of my coffee breaks. After my passing, he intended to hide my body and assume my identity. Their plan involved sending a resignation letter in my name, selling our house, and leaving town to keep everything secret. From what I read, Mickey helped start the business, but she seemed unaware of all of Nesbit's plans, especially some of the bigger decisions. While she knew most of his ideas, I doubted she would understand everything in the notebook. The notebook was important evidence, but I faced a challenge: how to show it to the police. I had gone onto Nesbit's property without permission, which could hurt my case. Nesbit might argue that the notebook was just a made-up story. Although Mickey might be concerned about what it said, she could easily support Nesbit to save herself. Instead of going to the police right away, I decided to confront both of them and let Mickey see the notebook. I planned to record what happened and then contact the police. I thought waiting until Friday would be wise, especially to see if Nesbit would stay the night with Mickey, giving me another chance to get the notebook. I put everything back as I found it, locked the house, and left the key by the back door. Then I spent the night in a motel a few miles away. Chapter 8. After breakfast on Friday morning, I entered the GPS coordinates from the notebook and drove to find my grave. The GPS led me north on Old Marshall Highway to an old farm road. I drove along the path for a few hundred yards until the GPS said I reached my destination. I had to stop halfway down a wooded hillside that sloped toward a marshy area. I walked around for 10 minutes before I found it. There was a pile of dirt on a piece of plywood covered with a tarp. Next to it was another piece of plywood over a hole that was about 6 feet long and 4 feet deep. So, this was meant to be my final resting place? At 5 o'clock that evening, I parked by the old Esso station again and waited for Mickey to drive by. She passed at 5:15, and I waited to see if Nesbit would drive by on his way to my house. When I didn't see him by 6, I drove by his house. He was home. The blue Corvette was in his driveway, so I parked down the street to watch his house and see if he would stay in for the night. At 6:30, he came out, got in his car, and drove away. I followed him to the Esso station and waited to see if he would head to my house. 15 minutes later, I saw Nesbit pull into my driveway and go into the garage. As soon as the garage door closed, I drove back to Nesbit's house. I checked his email and looked around again to see if I missed anything. I grabbed the notebook and the purchase contract for the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino. I was almost out the door when I remembered the gun. I wanted to make sure it was still in the drawer and not with Nesbit. The gun was there, so I decided to take it with me for safety. I got to the house just after 8 o'clock. I parked outside, knowing that Nesbit parked his car in my spot. I tucked the gun into my belt behind my back and covered it with my coat before entering the house through the garage. When I stepped into the kitchen, I heard music and voices in the living room. I placed the notebook on the kitchen table and moved to the archway leading into the living room. What I saw when I peeked around the corner was upsetting. Mickey and Nesbit were together on our sofa. They both looked surprised when they saw me. "Why don't you both get dressed, and then we can talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. After the surprise of my sudden entrance, Mickey went upstairs to get dressed. Nesbit started putting on his clothes in front of me. Once he finished, I suggested, "Let's sit down and wait for Mickey to come back." "Let's not make too much of this," Nesbit said. "Are you serious? You're with my wife and I'm not supposed to care? This is a big deal to me." Nesbit raised his hands as if to say he understood. We sat in silence until Mickey came back downstairs in a bathrobe. She looked at me and then at Nesbit. I noticed a small smirk on Nesbit's face when he suggested, "I could use a cup of coffee. Mickey, could you make some?" Mickey seemed calm when she walked into the room, but when Nesbit asked her to make coffee, she looked worried. I had a feeling he wanted her to do something concerning. From my seat, I could see Mickey in the kitchen, making coffee. Then she moved out of sight, and the silence began to feel tense. "So, how long have you two been together?" I asked. Nesbit smirked again and replied, "We've been together for a little over a year." We sat in silence for about 10 minutes, until the coffee maker let us know it was done. 5 more minutes passed before Nesbit called out to Mickey, "Hey, if you're not busy, can you bring the coffee in?" "In a minute," Mickey replied. 5 more minutes passed before I saw her filling the cups. She brought them into the living room on a tray. She set my cup on the table next to me and handed Nesbit his cup. When she finally sat down, Mickey looked at me with a serious expression. I hoped that meant she felt guilty about what she had done. Nesbit picked up his cup and took a sip, then looked at Mickey and smiled. I picked up my cup and held it for a moment before setting it back down. "Too hot," I said, placing the cup back on the table. "So, Mickey, why did you get involved with him?" I asked. Nesbit smirked as he sipped his coffee, then turned to Mickey. "You should tell him. It won't matter now. You weren't around, and Dave was. He made me believe I was better off with him than with you," she said. I found that answer odd. She didn't accuse me of cheating, which I had expected. I noticed that her answer seemed to confuse Nesbit. He didn't look pleased with her response. I picked up my cup again and said, "That's a weak excuse for why things happened." Nesbit looked at Mickey. "There was more to it than that. It wasn't just a brief relationship. Mickey is going to be my wife after the divorce." I pretended to sip my drink while watching Mickey's face, but she was focused on Nesbit. He was watching me closely, waiting for me to drink. When I set the cup back down, he looked frustrated. I thought it was time to stop pretending. "Mickey, could you please get the notebook I left on the kitchen table?" I asked. As she stood up, I quickly took out the item I had kept hidden. "What notebook?" Nesbit asked. "Last night I went to your house and found an interesting notebook in your desk. You know, the green one with your plans for Mickey and me," I replied. When Mickey returned with the notebook, Nesbit grabbed it from her. "This is just some silly writing I did for fun." "Have you let Mickey read it?" "I think she should," I said. Mickey stayed silent, just looking at Nesbit. "Nesbit, she doesn't need to see this," he said. "Well, the authorities will want to see it, especially when they discover poison traces in the coffee Mickey brewed for me. You both will be in serious trouble." Nesbit got up and walked toward me until he noticed what I was holding. "Sit back down." He picked up his coffee cup, looking like he might throw it at me, so I stood up, pointed the item at him, and said, "Sit down and be quiet." Nesbit sat back down, and so did I. Mickey and Nesbit both seemed to be waiting for me to speak. Nesbit tried to act composed while drinking coffee, but Mickey was anxious. Finally, Mickey said, "Tom, I am sorry for the mess I've created. You don't have to worry. I didn't put anything in your coffee." Nesbit shot her an angry look. "What did you do?" "I found the notebook in the kitchen while making coffee and read it. Everything you told me was a lie. I was ready to confront Tom because I believed your lies. But now I see you had bad plans. I was foolish before, but not anymore. I took action." Nesbit shouted, "How could you?" and lunged towards Mickey, but she stepped back, causing him to fall to the floor. As he tried to get up, he struggled to breathe and looked unwell. He fell back down and became unresponsive quickly. Mickey sat on the sofa, gazing at Nesbit's body, and began to cry. When Mickey looked at me, tears on her cheeks, she said, "I am sorry, Tom. You should call for help now. When they arrive, I will say it was my fault." I held the phone ready to make the call, but I hesitated about what to tell them, feeling unsure of what would happen next. I glanced at Nesbit's body on the floor and felt uneasy. I walked to the kitchen and sat at the table. Mickey followed and sat across from me, holding her head in her hands. "I can't believe I ruined everything. I let him destroy our lives. I'm truly sorry. I deserve whatever happens to me now." When I didn't respond, Mickey looked at me and asked, "Aren't you going to make the call?" "Could you get me a drink while I think this through?" I asked. "Nesbit isn't going anywhere, so why should we rush?" I sat quietly for a few minutes, then finally took a sip of my drink before speaking again. "How would you like to avoid trouble?" I asked. "How can I? I was involved, and you saw me. You have that notebook, too," she replied. "I also recorded our conversation. How many other people know about you and Nesbit?" I asked. "No one else. We made sure no one saw us, and I never talked about it," Mickey said. "What did you mean about avoiding jail time?" If you want to stay out of trouble, we need to deal with the situation in there, I said, pointing to the other room. Deal with him? How? She asked. Since he gave us a place to meet, we will go through with his plan, but we will change it. It will be him instead of me. Mickey looked pale as she stared at me. You want to bury him? No, we are going to bury him. I need you to search his pockets. Can't you do that? She asked. He was your partner, so you need to take care of this. Mickey walked into the living room and took Nesbitt's wallet from his back pocket, then checked his front pockets. When she finished, she handed me his wallet and keys. While you get ready, I will pull my truck into the garage, I said. I had to move Nesbitt's car out of the garage before bringing my truck in. Sitting in the Corvette, I couldn't help but think about what it would be like to own a car like that. Then I stressed over the car, worrying about the details that needed to be sorted out later. With the Corvette parked outside, I backed my truck into the garage as close to the kitchen door as I could. When I got back to the house, Mickey, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, was waiting for me in the kitchen. Together we moved what we needed to the garage and placed it in the bed of my truck, covering it with a tarp. I asked Mickey to get in the truck while I looked for a shovel and a hand truck in the back. Chapter 9. The first 10 minutes of the drive were quiet. Then I asked Mickey why she had turned against me. Dave convinced me that you were unfaithful. He kept telling me he cared for me and I needed to leave you for him. Why go to such lengths? Why not just divorce me? It was about the money. Dave said that if we got rid of you, we could pool our money and build Mayfield Enterprises. He said it would make us rich. He played on my anger towards you. I was wrong. I know you'll never forgive me, and I might never forgive myself. I didn't respond to her words. Why was he planning to take over my identity? Dave said it was to make sure no one looked for you. He wanted it to seem like we quit our jobs, sold the house, and moved far away. When did Nesbitt get that new Corvette? He picked it up just a few days ago. The car could make things complicated. We need to figure out how to manage it without drawing attention. Mickey fell silent for a moment, then laughed softly. You find this funny? I asked. Well, the whole situation is a bit ironic. The car isn't the main issue, it's just a detail. Dave arranged for Mayfield Enterprises to lease it for its president. So technically, it's yours now. Are you serious? The car is registered to Thomas Mayfield, which means it belongs to you. For a moment, the thought of owning such a nice car excited me, but I quickly refocused on our problems. Tell me about Mayfield Enterprises, I said. We started it to buy struggling companies, take them apart, and sell off their pieces. We would start small and grow as we made profits. That sounds like taking advantage of others, I said. What do you mean by taking advantage? It's like when a group rushes into a store, quickly taking what they can before leaving. Your plan was to get into smaller companies, break them apart, and grab their value. You make it sound wrong. If the shoe fits, I doubt Nesbitt meant it that way. What do you know about the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino? I asked. I've never heard of it, Mickey replied. I took out the purchase contract and the email from the real estate agent, handing them to Mickey. She turned on the overhead light to read them. After finishing, she shook her head. It looks like Mayfield Enterprises will need to buy the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino unless we can find a way to back out of this contract. He never talked to you about this? No. We stayed quiet as we drove to the site. With only a sliver of the moon showing, it was hard to see. I pulled out a battery-powered work light to help us. I took off the plywood covering the hole and leaned it against the truck. We moved the body onto the hand truck. I wheeled it over to the hole and tilted the hand truck until it tipped in. It landed face up with a strange look. I quietly told myself that nobody would see that expression again. Feeling uneasy, I focused on the next task. I took the tarp off the dirt pile and began filling the hole. Mickey and I worked together to put the plywood back to let the last of the dirt fall in. After loading the tarp, the plywood, and the hand truck into my truck, we covered the grave with branches. It all took less than 20 minutes. We drove home in silence. When we got back, I left the truck in the driveway and parked the Corvette in the garage while Mickey went inside. When I entered the kitchen, Mickey handed me a drink and asked, "What happens now?" "Life goes on. On Sunday, I'll head back to Memphis and you'll get back to work on Monday, I replied. Does that mean we're still together? Mickey asked. No, we're finished. While I'm in Memphis wrapping up my project, you need to find a lawyer and start the divorce process. We won't talk about Mayfield Enterprises with anyone. You created it, so now you have to figure out how to break it apart so we can get our money back. I can't think about this anymore tonight. It's been a long day and I'm tired. We will talk more about this tomorrow. I will stay in the guest room. Chapter 10. When I went downstairs in the morning, Mickey was already awake. I made coffee, she said. I must have given her a certain look because she quickly added, I didn't put anything in it. I'll have a cup with you. I poured a cup for both of us and sat across the table from Mickey. I've been thinking about our situation. We can't break apart Mayfield Enterprises, at least not yet, Mickey said. Why not? I asked. Our biggest problem is the purchase contract for that hotel and casino in Deadwood, South Dakota. I read through it again this morning, and there's a clause that requires Mayfield Enterprises to pay a 10% fee for due diligence before April 10th. That's $150,000 we won't get back if we don't go through with the purchase. If we refuse to pay the fee, what happens? I asked. They will sue us, and we will end up paying the $150,000 plus court costs. We will have to buy the casino and try to make it work for us. I think we should take a look at it before we give up. Besides, your Corvette is leased by Mayfield Enterprises. You don't want to give that up, do you? Chapter 11. After breakfast, I told Mickey I would take the plywood and the tarp from the gravesite to Nesbitt's garage. I wanted to make sure they weren't found near our house. I'm going to search his house to find anything that could link us to Nesbitt or make someone come looking for him, she said. I'll go with you, Mickey replied. When we arrived at the house, I asked Mickey to check the bedroom and Nesbitt's clothes for anything connecting him to us. While she did that, I returned to the study. I turned off the computer and packed it in a box. I cleared out all the drawers and found several keys, which I also placed in the box, along with all the papers from the desk. Just before I tossed the blue notebook, I realized I had never looked inside it. Inside the blue notebook was another detailed plan from Nesbitt. This plan took place 2 years before he started meddling in my life. His target was a young woman named Claire, who had an inheritance from her grandfather. Nesbitt convinced her to give him a large sum of money for an investment in land in North Carolina. Soon after getting the money, he stole a car and forced Claire's car off the road. When Mickey entered the study, I handed her the blue notebook and said, "Read this. It might help you feel better about what happened." Mickey sat down with the notebook. After reading it, she started to cry. He was a monster, and it's my fault I couldn't see it. I gave her a moment to calm down, and then asked if she found anything while searching the bedroom. A few restaurant receipts. I threw those away. Nothing else. I'll need to come back Monday to take out his trash for pickup. Should we look anywhere else? No, I checked the hall closet and kitchen. I emptied the desk into the box. We'll take it home and look through it more closely. At home, Mickey and I sorted through the papers from the box and threw away anything unimportant. One noteworthy item was the closing statement for the purchase of Nesbitt's house. It was owned by another company called Nesco. I opened Nesbitt's laptop and searched for files related to Nesco, finding them hidden in the music folder. I handed the laptop to Mickey so she could read the files. While Mickey examined the Nesco files, I continued sifting through documents. I almost missed a receipt for renting a safety deposit box at the Asheville Savings and Loan under the name Thomas Mayfield. This was another step Nesbitt took to control my life. I wondered if one of the keys I found in Nesbitt's desk was for that deposit box. 5 keys were in the box. One looked like it could fit a safety deposit box, and another seemed to belong to a post office box. I shared my thoughts about the safety deposit box and the post office key with Mickey. There is a lot of money involved with Nesco. The $500K Dave invested in Mayfield Enterprises came from there, leaving about $540K remaining. Besides the cash, Nesco owns Dave's house and another house in the Cayman Islands. The address for Nesco is a P.O. box in Asheville. I'll go to the Asheville post office tomorrow to see if that key opens the box. The safety deposit could be trickier. I'm not sure how we can manage that, Mickey said. I wonder if one of these other keys is for the house in the Caymans. Do you think Nesbitt had a bank account down there? I wondered. We spent the rest of the day discussing Mayfield Enterprises and the potential purchase of the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino. We agreed we needed to pay the due diligence fee of $150K in April. Then, we planned to go to Deadwood in May. We hoped to find something wrong with the property that would let us back out without losing our money. Until then, I would return to Memphis to work on my assigned projects while Mickey got back to her job. On Sunday morning, before I left, I told Mickey that I hoped I could trust her to work together with me now that Nesbitt was out of the picture. "You won't have to worry about me. We're in this together now, and we'll need each other," Mickey said. As I walked out the door, I told Mickey I'd see her in 2 weeks. Chapter 12. Over the next 2 weeks, I completed my 2 projects in Tennessee and decided to take a week of vacation. When I got home, Mickey updated me on her activities. She had been checking the Nesco post office box daily, and other than junk mail, the only item was a Visa bill. Mickey discovered Nesbitt's password and was able to log into the Nesco bank accounts to pay the bill. I mentioned to Mickey that I was considering visiting the Cayman Islands to check out the house owned by Nesco. Mickey wanted to join me but couldn't get time off work on short notice. I flew down on Sunday, arriving at 2 p.m. I took a cab from the airport to the house on Grand Cayman. It was a 2-bedroom bungalow with a beautiful view of the Caribbean. After knocking on the door and getting no response, I used the keys I had and entered. The house was furnished but clearly hadn't been used in a long time. There was dust on the furniture, and the house had a musty smell from being closed up. I emailed Mickey about the house. She suggested that I hire a cleaning service to take care of the bungalow every month unless we needed to prepare it for guests. Nesco would cover the costs. Our idea was to use the house as a vacation spot and maybe rent it out when we were not using it. I stayed until Thursday, enjoying the nice weather and the beach before heading home. When I arrived back, Mickey said she had some plans to discuss. "I think we should combine Nesco with Mayfield Enterprises. This would let us sell Dave's house here and keep the one in the Cayman Islands," Mickey said. "How do we make that happen?" "You'll need to take on the identity of David Nesbitt and ask a lawyer to give me power of attorney. That way, I can represent you in merging Nesco LLC with Mayfield Enterprises LLC. But how can I pretend to be Nesbitt? I don't look like him. Start by growing a mustache. Once it's there, I can style your hair to look like Dave's. I think I can make you look enough like his pictures to pass. I already know a lawyer who won't be suspicious of us. Once I have the power of attorney, I'll draft the agreement for merging the businesses and buying Nesbitt's share." "How will we pay Nesbitt for his share?" "We'll open an offshore account in Nesbitt's name at the Cayman Bank and put the money there. Later we can access it," Mickey said. "Also, you need to head to Asheville Savings and Loan to open that safety deposit box." It took me 2 weeks to grow a mustache that looked close to Nesbitt's. Mickey styled my hair to help me look more like him. I was nervous on the day of our appointment, but everything went smoothly as Mickey had planned. While Mickey focused on the merger, I went to Asheville to visit the safety deposit box. I had no trouble getting in. When the woman who let me in left, I opened the box. I was surprised by what I found. Inside, there was a small firearm, $20,000 in cash, a passport with my name but Nesbitt's picture, and a bank book for the Grand Cayman Bank. The book showed the balance was over $1 million. I felt dizzy. After taking deep breaths to calm down, I checked the box further. I found some papers that didn't seem important, so I put them in my briefcase along with the gun, the cash, the passport, and the bank book. The last item was a card with phone numbers and what looked like passwords, but there was no clue about what they were for. When I got home, I showed Mickey what I found in the safety deposit box. She gave me $10,000 and kept $10,000 for herself. Then, Mickey logged onto the Grand Cayman Bank website using one of the passwords from the card. "What are we going to do about the money in that bank?" I asked. "Since it's a numbered account, there's no name attached. As long as we have the account number and the password, we can control that money," Mickey explained. Mickey changed the password to keep anyone else from accessing the account. "This will be our money, and I think we should leave it there for now." Now that we've moved on from David Nesbitt, we should focus on growing Mayfield Enterprises and the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino. That will keep us busy. I think we should check out the property to see if we can get out of the agreement. If not, we'll need to learn how to run a hotel and casino. Deadwood, South Dakota. Chapter 13. Thursday, December 19th, 2013. I had just finished my final walkthrough with the contractor and decided to relax with a drink before heading home. I spent the hour enjoying a double bourbon while reflecting on the past year. It's been 10 months since my life changed in February when I found out Mickey was not only unfaithful, but also working against me. The confrontation with Mickey and Dave Nesbitt had serious consequences. Now, instead of being a project manager for SASC, I am president and CEO of Mayfield Enterprises, and Mickey is the CFO. In May, Mickey and I visited Deadwood, South Dakota to inspect the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino, trying to void the purchase contract and get our $150,000 back. Unfortunately, the property was exactly as described, so we were stuck with the contract. We made a down payment of $500,000 and secured a loan for the rest of the purchase price, making Mayfield Enterprises, LLC the owner of the Deadwood Saloon Hotel and Casino. The property needed renovations, so I moved to Deadwood to manage the project while Mickey stayed in North Carolina, working at the brokerage and overseeing the finances of Mayfield Enterprises. Over the last months, the Deadwood Hotel and Casino, as we renamed it, was busy with renovations in preparation for the grand reopening on Saturday, December 21st. I finished my drink and took another look around at the saloon, which we called Mayfield's 1870 Saloon. I was proud of the atmosphere we created. Walking through the doors felt like stepping back to the 1870s. Feeling pleased about the renovations, I walked out to my truck. I still have the Corvette, but I wouldn't drive it around Deadwood in the winter. Just as I was about to open the truck door, I heard a voice behind me asking if I was Tom Mayfield. I turned to see who was speaking, and before I could react, 3 men grabbed me. 2 of them held my arms while a third person covered my head. I struggled to break free, but they pushed me against the wall and kept me there. I tried to speak, but one of them told me to be quiet. We stayed in that position for a few minutes until I heard a car coming. As soon as the car stopped, they pushed me into the back seat and forced me down to the floor. I was scared and confused about what they wanted from me. Was this about the Deadwood project? Had Mickey decided to betray me again and take control of Mayfield Enterprises? I don't know how long we were in the car, maybe half an hour before we stopped, and I heard a garage door open. The car drove inside, and when the door closed, I was pulled out and made to walk between 2 of them. They guided me up a few steps and into a house. We walked down a hallway and entered a room where I was pushed down into a chair and told to be silent. With the cover over my head, I could only see a small part of the wooden floor beneath me. "We got him," one of my captors said. "Was he any trouble?" asked a deep voice. "No trouble," came the answer. "Go get CJ," the deep voice instructed. Chapter 14. Who was CJ? I didn't know anyone by that name, and I couldn't understand what was happening. A few minutes later, I heard someone enter the room. I realized it was a woman because I could hear her heels clicking on the floor as she walked closer. When she approached, I could smell her perfume, which was strong and noticeable. I could see her stylish shoes and delicate ankles. I don't know why I noticed these things given my situation. Suddenly, something hit me hard on the left side of my jaw. The force made my head turn, leaving me momentarily confused. I braced myself, expecting another blow, but instead the cover was pulled off my head. It took a few seconds to see the person in front of me. She had big brown eyes, a pretty face, and long dark hair. We stared at each other for a moment. I noticed faint scars, one on her forehead and another on her chin. They didn't take away from her looks. After a moment, she turned and yelled, "That's not him. You brought me the wrong person." I wasn't sure if that was good or bad for me. "That's Tom Mayfield, the guy you sent us to grab," one of my captors said. "Jimmy, I gave you a picture of Howard." "I don't know who this is," she said, turning back to me. "I'm Tom Mayfield," I replied. "This can't be happening," she said. "Do you know Howard Mason?" "No, never heard of him," I said. She looked at me and then turned to a middle-aged man sitting behind a desk. "Why can't these guys do anything right? They should have checked if he looked like the man in the picture I gave them. If Howard was in Deadwood, he is probably gone now." "CJ, calm down. the man behind the desk said in that deep voice I had heard earlier. You said the Corvette dealer identified him as Tom Mayfield, Jimmy said, pointing at me. And he said he was Tom Mayfield. I started to feel worried. Can I see the picture you're talking about? The 5 people in the room looked over at me. Jimmy, give me that picture, CJ said. CJ took the picture from Jimmy and held it in front of me. Inside, I was panicking. Do you know this guy? CJ asked, pointing at David Nesbitt. It was a picture of Nesbitt standing next to the same blue 2013 Corvette that was in my garage. I couldn't think of a lie, so I decided to share at least part of the truth. I knew him as David Nesbitt, I said. He's a con man who tried to steal my identity. Where is he? These ties are cutting into my wrists. If you cut them off, I'll tell you, I said, hoping they wouldn't resort to force, but I had to try before I lost feeling in my hands. Jimmy, cut him loose, CJ said. Once my hands were free, I answered her question. The last time I saw him, he was in North Carolina, and he had just bought the car in that picture. Judging by CJ's anger, I guessed she was also a victim. How much did he take from you? CJ pulled up a chair and sat down in front of me. What makes you think he took anything from me? He's a con man. That's what they do. He changed his name so you wouldn't find him, and the punch you hit me with tells me you're very angry with him. Howard took a little over $500,000 from me. It was an inheritance from my grandfather, and I want it back. For the last 2.5 years, I've known him as David Nesbitt. When did this happen to you? I met him 5 years ago. He was supposed to use my money to buy land in North Carolina. He said we could sell it later for a big profit. I was supposed to meet him in Raleigh a few days after he left, but I had a bad car accident the next day and was in the hospital for several days. When I was finally released, I couldn't find him. I've been looking ever since. I already knew CJ's story. Nesbitt or Mason had explained everything that happened to her in his notes. By any chance, does the C in CJ stand for Claire? How do you know that? I have information you need to see, but it's back at my house in Deadwood. If you come back there with me, I can show you what I've got. I think this will help clarify things for you, I said. Why should I believe you? What do you have to lose? You can bring Jimmy and his friends along. You better not be deceiving me. Jimmy looked like he might try to hold me back again, but when CJ noticed my sore wrists, she stepped in. Chapter 15. On the way back to Deadwood, I sat in the back seat between Jimmy and a man named Dan, while CJ drove. When we arrived at the house, I told Jimmy I needed to get something from my safe. I wanted him to know there was a tool inside. I don't want any mishaps, so I'll open it and you can take it out, I explained. I could see that Jimmy had doubts, but he followed me into my office. I entered the combination and opened the door for him to take out the tool. Then I grabbed 2 notebooks and went into the living room where CJ was waiting. I want to keep this quiet, so I'll ask Jimmy and Dan to wait in the kitchen. Jimmy glanced at CJ, and she nodded. There's beer in the fridge and drinks on the counter, I said. Then I turned to CJ and asked, I'm going to make myself a drink. Would you like something before we start? This is not a social gathering. We have important matters to discuss, CJ replied, smiling slightly. It was good to see her light side. I understand, but you might need a drink after everything I need to show you. Besides, I don't usually talk business with anyone who needs supervision. That made CJ chuckle a bit. Okay, then I'll have a little bourbon on the rocks. Jimmy and Dan were in the kitchen, each with a beer, keeping an eye on me while I sat down with CJ. How did you find that picture you showed me? I asked. Howard had a Corvette when I met him, and he said he got a new one every 3 years. I passed that info and a photo of Howard Mason to my private investigator. He found the Corvette dealer in Asheville, North Carolina, who leased the car. The dealer confirmed the man in the photo was named Tom Mayfield. The picture was taken when Howard picked the car up. I'm impressed. Your investigator did a great job. But how did you come to Deadwood? I did a Google search. Your name was linked to the hotel. I called the number listed and asked the person who answered if you were Tom Mayfield from North Carolina. She said yes. I shared how Mickey and I ended up in Asheville and how I discovered Mickey was involved with Nesbitt. I found out that they were plotting against me. After that, I was determined to know what they were up to. I visited Nesbitt's house while he was at mine with Mickey. That's when I found the notebooks. I handed the green notebook to CJ and explained Nesbitt's plan to harm me and take my identity. He also planned to go after Mickey. You're still here, so what happened with your wife and Howard or Nesbitt? I usually just call him the man to avoid confusion, I replied. How did you stop them? I'll explain that later, I said, placing the blue notebook in front of CJ. I think you'll want to be alone when you read what's in this one. I got up to refresh our drinks and added more ice and bourbon. I returned with CJ's glass and watched as she read the first few pages before I went back to the kitchen. It took CJ about 20 minutes to finish. When she was done, she buried her face in her hands. When I walked in, CJ looked at me and said, "He meant to hurt me. It wasn't an accident. He put me in danger and I trusted him. Now every time I see these scars, I'll remember what he did." CJ stood up and went to the kitchen. She handed the car keys to Jimmy. "You two head back to the house. Tom and I need to talk." "Are you sure?" Jimmy asked. "It seems Tom and I have a lot in common, and I'd prefer to discuss this privately," CJ explained, looking at me. As they left, Jimmy handed my tool to CJ, just in case. Once they were gone, CJ gave me the tool back. "You're not a threat to me, are you?" "No, I'm not." CJ went back to the kitchen to pour herself more bourbon. When she came back, I asked her about her scars. "Did they come from your accident? When did that happen?" "I'm sure you know it was no accident. It happened in April 2010. What do you think happened?" "I went off the road and fell down onto rocks by Lake Erie. That's all I know. I was not awake when they pulled me from the car and didn't wake up for 2 days. The police never found anyone who saw the crash. The scars are from the airbag. It's unfortunate, but they'll always remind me of my mistake in trusting him. Those scars don't lessen your beauty. They give you character. I could sit here looking at you all night without getting bored." CJ's face turned a bit red and she laughed. "You're still trying to charm me, aren't you?" "Is it working?" "No." "Okay, now tell me the rest of the story." I shared what happened the night of the big meeting. I explained how the man asked Mickey to make coffee, and while she was busy, she found out that Nesbitt was also tricking her. Mickey put something in his coffee and he was not able to move for a while, I said. "What did the police do?" CJ wanted to know. "Nothing. We didn't call them." I opened the green notebook and showed her where the man had written about the grave he dug for me, including the GPS coordinates for where it was. Nesbitt is now in that grave he made for himself. "Why didn't you call the police?" "I thought about it, but I realized that calling them could cause money problems for me. Nesbitt and Mickey had all our money tied up in Mayfield Enterprises. I was afraid that if the police got involved, they would freeze our business assets, and it could take a long time to get my money back. I would spend a lot on legal fees just to recover it." "What happened to your wife?" "Mickey. We're divorced. I know it might seem strange after everything, but she is my business partner now. I don't know much about money matters, so Mickey takes care of that, and I run the operations." We sat quietly for a few minutes, and then CJ lowered her head and began to cry again. Unsure of what to do, I stayed silent. CJ looked up at me, wiping her tears, and said, "I hope to find Howard here and get my money back. Now that he's gone, I'll never see it again." I needed to think about that for a moment. We talked for a little while longer. I learned that CJ's full name was Claire Johnson. She was a CPA, taught accounting at a community college in Erie, and worked part-time during tax season. Jimmy and Dan, along with my other captor, worked for CJ's father, who ran a trucking company in Erie. He rented the house where they kept me, which was close to Deadwood for their plans. "If I were Howard Mason, would your father have hurt me?" I asked. CJ smiled and said, "I don't know, maybe." "That's not funny," I replied. "If you had seen your face, you would find it funny too." I started to like CJ, but I still felt careful about completely trusting her. "Do you want me to drive you back to the house?" "I've had more bourbon than I'm used to, and I'm tired. I'd like to spend a night away from my dad and his friends. They sit around drinking and making noise. Not a great place for someone like me," CJ said with a laugh. "Do you have a guest bedroom?" "Yes." "Could I stay here tonight? Can you lend me a shirt to sleep in?" Chapter 16. In the morning, I woke up early and CJ was still in the guest room. I made coffee and called Mickey to tell her what happened the night before. I explained who CJ was and that she was the person mentioned in the blue notebook. "How sure are you?" Mickey asked. "Before I went to bed, I checked the YQ TV website in Erie, Pennsylvania. I looked at their news from 2010 and found the video about CJ's accident. It was all there." "So what do you want to do?" Mickey inquired. "The right thing," I insisted. "I'm with you. Do what you feel is best." Shortly after my call with Mickey, CJ came out of the guest room wearing my t-shirt. "I need coffee," she said. CJ sat at the table and quietly drank 2 cups of coffee. I was surprised that she seemed relaxed with me. "That looks nice on you," I said to break the silence. "Don't get any funny ideas. Coffee is more important to me than anything else right now." "So, what's next?" "I guess I should go back to the house to pack and head back to Erie tomorrow. When you are ready, I'll take you back to the house." I checked the weather while CJ was getting dressed. If it was rainy or snowy, I would have to get a taxi to take us to Deadwood to pick up my truck. Otherwise, we could take the Corvette. I don't drive the Vet in bad weather. Luckily, the weather was clear and the roads were dry. When CJ came back, I told her we would take my car, and she followed me to the garage. When she saw the Corvette, CJ paused. "What are you doing with that car? That's the car that was in the picture with Howard. Why do you have it now?" "Remember, the person told the dealer his name was Tom Mayfield. The car is registered in my name, so I decided to keep it." It took a moment for that to sink in. Then CJ said, "That makes sense now." As I backed the Corvette out of the garage, I asked CJ where the house was. "You were there and you don't know where it is?" "On the way there, I had a bag over my head, and on the way back, I was in the back seat between Punch and Judy and couldn't see anything around me." "The house is in Sturgis." Before we even left Deadwood, I had made my decision. I felt good about it, even though there was a little risk. "After you take care of things at the house, would you come back to Deadwood for lunch with me? There's something important I want to talk to you about." "What's that about?" CJ asked. "You'll have to come back to Deadwood to find out. Meet me at the hotel." At 12:30, CJ entered the hotel lobby. I met her at the door and led her up the street to Patty O'Neill's Irish pub for lunch. During our meal, CJ asked me several times why I wanted to talk to her. I told her she would have to wait until after lunch. After lunch, I brought CJ back to the Deadwood Hotel and up to my office on the 2nd floor. CJ watched silently as I opened my computer and turned on the large screen on the wall. I opened a document on the screen. "What's this?" CJ asked. "It's a spreadsheet," I replied. "I know what a spreadsheet is. What are you trying to show me?" she said. "This is about the Deadwood Hotel and Casino in Mayfield's 1870 saloon. It lists the purchase price of $1, $5 million. We have a due diligence payment of $150,000 and a down payment of $350,000, which were both paid by Mayfield Enterprises. There's also $1 million from a business loan that Mayfield Enterprises got from a bank in Rapid City. This includes all fees, taxes, commissions, and other costs paid at closing." "I'm a CPA. I know how to read a spreadsheet," CJ said, sounding a bit annoyed. "Great. Now this one," I said, pulling up another spreadsheet, "is for Mayfield Enterprises. I want you to see the source of the startup money. In March 2012, Mickey and your Howard started Mayfield Enterprises, and Mickey invested $500,000 instead of buying mineral rights as planned. Someone else helped with another $500,000. An additional $890,000 came from a merge with Nesco LLC, created by Mickey's friend, Nesbitt. Nesco was holding $400,000, plus a house we sold after merging for $490,000. I looked at CJ, who was focused on the spreadsheet. "This is interesting, but why tell me all of this?" "I wanted you to see this because you have a choice to make. It hasn't sunk in yet, but Howard Mason, or my David Nesbitt, had nearly $1, $5 million in Mayfield Enterprises. It seems likely that the $500,000 taken from you is part of that." CJ gasped. "Oh my God. I have 2 offers for you. First, we can return your $500,000. If that's what you want, we need to figure out how to do it without causing tax issues. Mickey suggested we buy you a $500,000 annuity that would give you $2,000 a month for over 20 years. With interest, you would get back more than the original amount. We're open to other ideas, too." My second offer is for you to keep your money invested in Mayfield Enterprises and become an equal partner with Mickey and me. You would be our CFO, handling all the accounting for Mayfield Enterprises. You would receive a salary with benefits and bonuses based on how well the company does. What about my teaching job? She asked. You could keep teaching and manage the accounting for Mayfield remotely, or you could work here and be more involved, which is what I would prefer. I thought your ex-wife was the CFO. Mickey would be the vice president, focusing on finding investment opportunities, I explained. That's a lot to think about. How soon do I need to decide? I can give you 2 weeks. If you choose not to become a partner, I would need to find someone else for the accounting job. I feel a bit overwhelmed, but this is the best I've felt since my car accident. Knowing I haven't lost everything makes a difference. I'll consider your offers and let you know. CJ and her dad stayed over the weekend for the grand opening of the Deadwood Hotel and Casino and Mayfield's 1870 Saloon. It went well. The hotel was full, and the casino was busy even though it was December in South Dakota. I was busy most of the day, but noticed CJ enjoying playing the slot machines, while her dad played blackjack in the saloon. The next morning, CJ, her father, and their friends headed back to Erie. For days, I waited for CJ to call, hoping she'd choose to join us as a partner. By Friday, with no word from her, I started to think she might prefer the annuity and stay in Erie, which disappointed me. I was starting to really like her and wanted to be close. Then, she surprised me by showing up at my house on Saturday saying, "Your new partner is here and ready to work." She gave me a warm hug. CJ stayed in my spare room for the next 2 months. One evening, she told me she found an apartment she liked in an old building near the hotel. I didn't want her to go. "I wish you wouldn't leave," I said. CJ hugged me and asked, "Why do you want me to stay?" I hesitated to share my feelings, but instead said, "Because it makes me happy when you hug me." "If that makes you happy, how would you feel if we spent more time together?" she suggested. "Don't tease me. I might not handle that well," I replied. I looked into CJ's eyes and felt a deeper connection. I knew I wanted to be closer to her. "I don't tease." CJ smiled and moved closer. Later in my room, CJ leaned in for a longer kiss, and I felt a wave of emotions. I never thought I would be in a situation like this with her, and it made me a little nervous. When we entered the bedroom, CJ kissed me again, and we both felt our relationship change. In that warm moment, I paused, wanting to make sure we were both comfortable with this. "I just want to make sure this is what you truly want," I said softly. "Oh, I am sure. I have strong feelings for you even though I barely know you, but I'm willing to take the chance because I think you feel the same way," CJ replied. I held CJ close, feeling comforted by her presence. "I do. I just don't want us to rush into anything that might cause regret later." "I don't think I will ever regret anything with you," CJ said. I helped CJ onto the bed and she smiled, inviting me to sit next to her. As I sat down, our kisses became deeper, and we felt a strong connection between us. At that moment, it seemed like we were trying to understand each other on a new level. CJ leaned closer and whispered, "You better hurry." She shifted slightly, allowing us to share a quiet moment together. I made sure she was comfortable as we moved closer. CJ smiled and whispered, "This feels wonderful." We embraced, moving together gently. After a little while, CJ held the sheets beside her and softly expressed her happiness. Once things calmed down, CJ pulled me into a warm hug. We shared a moment of closeness before I finally relaxed beside her. As we lay together, CJ playfully suggested we could share another moment soon. "In a little bit," I chuckled. "I just need some time." For the next few minutes, we talked softly about how happy we were to be together. Then CJ said, "If we are going to be serious, you need to promise not to date anyone else." "I can promise that if you do the same," I replied. "I guess that makes us exclusive starting now," CJ said with a smile. She looked at me warmly and joked, "I think this is the start of a great friendship." After that first night, CJ never moved to the spare bedroom. She kept her things there, but spent every night next to me. CJ and I had been together for about 2 months when Mickey finally came to Deadwood to meet her. It was interesting to watch them size each other up. Mickey broke the ice first. I guess we have something in common. We both like the same two guys, one good and one not so great. CJ laughed and said, "You're right." I stepped out to take a phone call, and when I returned, CJ told me, "Mickey and I are going out to lunch. We'll see you in a couple of hours." And they left together. I wasn't sure if that was a good or bad thing. When they came back, it was clear they had a good time and were acting like old friends. Later, I had some time alone with Mickey, and she told me about her life. She mentioned she had met a kind man named Jimmy Hogan, a doctor in Asheville. They even celebrated New Year's together. After catching me up, Mickey suggested we bring CJ back to discuss Mayfield Enterprises. The next morning, the three of us were in my office at the hotel when I got a call from the front desk. The receptionist said a man was in the lobby wanting to see me. He didn't give his name or reason for visiting. I told her to send him up. The man who entered was shorter and stocky with a bald head. He wore a light gray trench coat and looked like he belonged in an old detective movie. "My name is Leander Mossman," he said. I introduced myself and then introduced Mossman to CJ and Mickey. "What can I help you with?" I asked. "I'm a private detective from New Orleans, and I'm looking for a man named Larry Taylor." "I don't know anyone by that name," I said. Mossman handed me a picture and asked, "Do you recognize him?" I passed the picture to CJ, who showed it to Mickey. It was a photo of a younger man who looked familiar. "I don't think I've ever met him," I said, then asked Mickey if she recognized him. "I haven't seen him before," Mickey replied. CJ stayed quiet. "Why are you looking for him here?" I asked. "Mr. Taylor took money from some people in New Orleans, and they hired me to find him," Mossman explained. "But why Deadwood?" I asked. "Mr. Taylor convinced my clients to invest in a casino he said he was buying here. Then he disappeared with their money. This casino is the only one that has changed owners recently, so I came to check. This casino, the hotel, and Mayfield's 1870 saloon were bought by Mayfield Enterprises last May," Mickey said. "Larry Taylor was not involved with us." "So who owns Mayfield Enterprises?" Mossman asked. "The three of us," CJ replied. "You've built a nice place here," Mossman said. "We've worked hard on it, and we're starting to see success," I added. "Well, I guess that was a long shot. Looks like I've come to a dead end," Mossman said. "How much did Taylor take from your clients?" CJ asked. "About $700,000 total." "I wouldn't want to be him if they find him," I said. Mossman thanked us and left. As he walked out, I signaled for CJ and Mickey to stay quiet. "Well, that was interesting," I said. "I just hope we never get caught in a scam like that. Anyway, let's return to what we were doing." The three of us didn't mention our visitor until we got back to the house. "Do you think he suspects we weren't completely honest?" CJ asked. "I don't know. He seemed to accept what we told him. Just to be safe, we should leave the past behind and not think about it again," I said. Chapter 18. Since we opened our places in Deadwood last December, they have done better than we thought. From April to the end of September, our hotel was almost full, with nearly 80% occupancy and close to full on weekends. The casino was busy every day. Things slowed down a bit in October, so I suggested to CJ that we take a vacation to the Cayman Islands. She was excited to go. On our first night in our house in Grand Cayman, I asked CJ to marry me, and she happily said yes. We enjoyed every moment together while we were there. We had our wedding at the Deadwood Town Hall and a reception at Matfield's 1870 saloon. Mickey and her boyfriend joined us, along with some friends and hotel staff. Later that year, Mickey and her boyfriend got married in Las Vegas, and CJ and I witnessed their vows. By June 2016, CJ and I welcomed our daughter Brittany, who was 1 year old, and we were expecting another child. Toward the end of the month, I got a call from Greg Hadley, our head of security at the casino. Greg mentioned he saw two men walking around the casino who seemed to be checking it out. They were taking photos before heading to the saloon. I told Greg to meet me in the saloon, and I went down to see what the men were doing. As Greg and I entered, we noticed them right away. They were dressed in business suits and didn't seem like trouble, but they were still taking pictures of the saloon. I approached the men and introduced myself. I said, "I am Tom Mayfield, one of the owners here. Can I ask why you are visiting?" One replied, "I'm John Benson, and this is my associate Bill Martin. We are looking for a possible investment. We have been here all week, and this is the best property we've seen." "You're right. It is the best property in Deadwood, but it's not for sale," I responded. "You haven't heard our offer yet," he said. "I'm listening," I replied. "We are thinking $4 million for the hotel, casino, and the saloon." I was taken aback but didn't show my surprise. This property makes that much every 2 years. It would take a lot more to get us to sell. "So you might actually consider selling?" he asked. "I didn't say that. I just mean it would take more than $4 million to change our minds," I clarified. "Who wants to buy this property?" "The people we represent prefer to stay anonymous. We will be in touch in a few days to see if we can convince you," Benson replied. Once they left, I checked with Greg if he had recorded our conversation, and he said, "Every word." I wasn't sure if they would return with a better offer, or if they had other plans. I went back to my office and asked CJ to join me, then called Mickey. I played the recording for them. "What do you think? Is this offer for real, or are they playing games?" I asked. "Do you think they believed you when you said the property earns $2 million a year?" Mickey asked. "I don't think they believed me, but they still seemed interested in buying." "We should be careful with them," I warned. "What if they come back and offer $5 million? CJ suggested. "Maybe we should take it." We paused for a moment, then Mickey said, "If they return with an offer, let's try to negotiate and see how they respond." "How far should we go with a counteroffer?" I asked. Mickey laughed. "Let's gauge their seriousness. Counter with $1 million more than they offer. If they're okay with that, we should sell and move on." 2 days later, Benson and Martin returned with an offer of $5 million, and I replied we wouldn't sell for less than $6 million. Benson didn't flinch. He said he needed to make a call and would get back to me soon. Less than half an hour later, they came back and accepted our counteroffer without asking to see the business finances. That made me think they wanted the property for reasons beyond just the money it brought in. After discussing with CJ and Mickey, we agreed to Benson's offer. It took 2 months to finalize the deal and hand over the property to Benson or whoever he was representing. Once all the paperwork was signed, CJ, Brittany, and I drove our Toyota Highlander to Asheville, North Carolina. We had already bought a house there, and our furniture plus the Corvette had arrived the week before. I had made peace with Mickey and no longer felt any resentment toward her. This made it easier for CJ, Mickey, and me to work together for the success of Mayfield Enterprises. I even convinced Mickey and CJ to let Mayfield Enterprises buy 3 Standard Auto Services Corporation franchises located in Southern Virginia near the North Carolina border. Our second child, a boy named Thomas Matfield Jr., was born in October, and Mickey announced she was expecting 2, due in April. The next surprise in my story came in April, just after Mickey had her little girl, Ashley. I was in my home office when I received a call on my business phone. The caller introduced himself as Agent James Seymour. He said he was an investigator for the Internal Revenue Service and wanted to talk to me. I felt a tight knot in my stomach as I wondered why the IRS would be interested in speaking with me. I was aware that our tax returns for the last few years were in good shape. However, if they looked into Mayfield Enterprises from 2012 and 2013, they might start questioning where all the money to set it up actually came from. I invited Mr. Seymour to my house and called Mickey to let her know what was happening and that she should come over too. CJ was already at home, and Mickey got there just before Agent James Seymour. When I opened the door, Agent Seymour showed me his badge and said, "I'm Agent James Seymour. Are you Thomas Mayfield?" I confirmed that I was and welcomed Agent Seymour into the house. I took him to the living room, introduced him to CJ and Mickey, and offered him a cup of coffee. He accepted, and once we were all seated, Agent Seymour began. "The reason I'm here is to ask you some questions about the sale of the Deadwood Hotel and Casino to the Treadway Syndicate." Treadway Syndicate? This is the first we're hearing of that name. We never knew who the real buyers were. We only dealt with their agents, and they didn't tell us who they were representing. "Was there a problem with the sale?" I asked. "No, not from your end. Over the years, Treadway has made some questionable purchases of businesses like yours in Deadwood. What raised a flag was the price they paid $6 million for a business that only made $900,000 a year. Treadway tends to overpay for properties. Did you advertise your property for sale, or did they come to you?" "We weren't planning to sell the Deadwood. Their agents approached me with an offer of $4 million, which I turned down. They then raised it to $5 million, and we countered with $6 million, and they accepted. Did you think that offer was high for that property? Agent Seymour asked. Of course, but that $6 million was a lot of money and helped us explore new opportunities. I found their offer questionable. I thought they might use the casino for something wrong, but I figured it was better not to ask too many questions and just accept their money, I replied. Have you had any contact with anyone related to the Deadwood Hotel and Casino since the sale? No, we haven't. So, what do you think is going on? I asked. I'm not able to share details about our investigation, Agent Seymour said. He handed me his card and asked us to call him if anyone from the hotel reached out to us. He thanked us for our time and left. The IRS knows much more about what's happening in Deadwood than we do, I said. I wonder if they looked into us when we bought the hotel. I wouldn't be surprised, Mickey replied. Chapter 19. The last significant event in my story took place in June. Mickey, her husband Jimmy, and Ashley came over for a drink. I heard my office phone ring. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but decided to answer it. I was on the phone for more than half an hour before I returned outside to join the others. CJ looked at me and asked, "What's wrong?" I tried to keep a calm face, but it didn't last long. A smile spread across my face as I said, "You won't believe what that call was about." "Don't just stand there, tell us," CJ urged. The call was from the chief of police and the mayor of Deadwood. They informed me that Greg Hadley, who was still in charge of security at the Deadwood Hotel and Casino, had contacted the police about suspicious activity late at night. He said a box truck arrived at the back of the hotel and unloaded several boxes into the basement, locking them in a room. Greg managed to sneak in and opened one of the boxes, which contained strange items. He took some packets to the police station as evidence. The chief then got a search warrant and called the South Dakota State Police for help. The next morning, they were ready to serve the warrant. By noon, the police discovered several kilos of illegal substances ready for distribution. The hotel and casino management were arrested, and all employees were questioned. The next day, federal agents arrived in Deadwood, upset that the local police acted first. It was discovered that the Treadway Syndicate was involved in illegal activities and was using the casino for money laundering. The local police quickly took control of the Deadwood Hotel and Casino. The mayor called me to see if we were interested in buying the hotel and casino from the city and state. They are offering us the property for $2 million. CJ gasped in surprise and then covered her mouth, saying, "Excuse me." "How soon would we have to make a decision?" Mickey asked. "They said we could take a couple of weeks to decide, but we shouldn't wait too long as the feds are looking to get involved, which might increase the price. You know, this publicity could make the Deadwood Hotel quite popular. We could raise room rates and likely attract more visitors," CJ said. "We could do it, but I don't want to live there full time. We would need to find trustworthy people to run the business, so we would only have to visit every few months." "What do we think?" Mickey suggested. "Let's do it." And CJ agreed. Epilogue, March 2020. Since we bought back the Deadwood Hotel and Casino, business has been thriving. Since reopening, the hotel, casino, and saloon have been earning just over $1, $5 million a year, and our other businesses are doing well too. Our only concern is the COVID-19 pandemic that is starting to grow in the U.S. There's no doubt Mayfield Enterprises will face some challenges, but CJ, Mickey, and I have enough funds in the Grand Cayman Bank to get through this situation. Our main concern is for all our workers, and we plan to keep them with us for as long as possible. I still find it hard to believe that all the good changes in my life over the last 7 years started because of a troubled person who did many wrong things just to get rich. He's not around anymore, dealing with the results of his actions. Now, I am the president and CEO of the company he created in my name. I took over his car, and we took control of Nesco, a company that used to serve his needs. We also gained access to his bank account in the Cayman Islands and his property there. Ultimately, we acquired the hotel and casino he wanted for himself. Looking back, if it weren't for him getting involved in my life, I would have never met CJ. In the end, his greed caused his problems and opened the door for my happiness and success with a wonderful family.